Hello there, come closer. You won't believe what I have in store for you today. You think you watched K-pop Demon Hunters properly. Well, you have no idea what you missed. There are so many mistakes that the movie makers made, and right now, they are praying that you don't notice these mistakes. But guess what? I noticed all of them, and I'm going to be revealing them. From the animation of the Saja boys just being plain wrong, to the girls straight up lying to all our faces, down to demons doing something that not even 1% of humans can. And there is a mistake that shows just how confused everyone in that movie is, which I will reveal at the end of this video. So just chill, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and let's get right into it. Starting with one of the most obvious mistakes that no one noticed. For me to show you this mistake, we have to go back to the plane scene where the girls had just started carb loading. We saw them start with a tray of gimbap. And hey, I think our brains have all come to accept that these girls can eat a whole lot, but what our brains didn't accept was food coming back from the dead. And that's exactly what happened to the tray of gimbap. We saw them consume the entire tray, like they finished all the gimbap on the tray. But after a few seconds, we saw the tray again, and it wasn't empty. Somehow the gimbap came back, if that makes any sense at all. You're thinking that the first mistake is just crazy and makes absolutely no sense, but let me burst your bubble and show you a mistake that makes even less sense. And guess what? It involves food as well. For this mistake, we'll have to go back to when the Saja boys performed Soda Pop. There was this shot where Jinu helped a young girl apply mustard to her corn dog. And hey, when I watched that scene, I thought, aw, how nice of him. But almost immediately, I saw Rumi rush the poor girl like an NFL quarterback and almost tackle her to the ground. I grabbed a hold of my check because why in the world would Rumi do that? But she didn't stop there. She grabbed the girl's corn dog and threw it to the ground. Then all of them began stomping it like the corn dog committed a crime and everyone had come together to teach it a lesson. But that's where the mistake happened. Instead of the corn dog getting smashed and completely damaged, we saw the thing start bouncing like it was made of rubber. I was like, how in the world is that even possible? Even the mustard that was just added wasn't smeared on the floor. It wasn't just adding up. And yet somehow, the next mistake makes even less sense. Going back to the plane scene, I'm sure we all saw the girls jump from the plane. I have too many problems with that scene where they were dropping from the sky. But the particular mistake I want to focus on is Mira. What that girl did while falling from the sky wasn't just something that didn't make any sense. It was also impossible as well. We saw her using a hairdryer and combing her hair mid-air. Let me give you the closest thing to that I can think of. Imagine holding 3 strands of thread in front of an electric fan set to the maximum. Then imagine trying to comb those threads. It would be a miracle if you could even grab a hold of one of those threads. That's what Mira was trying to do by combing her hair while falling from a plane. Then there's the hairdryer. That's like trying to blow air with your mouth against a giant, powerful electric fan. It is completely hopeless. But it seems this movie thrives on hopeless situations. Another hopelessly foolish scene happened in that plane scene. So we all saw how that plane was torn to pieces. Like it was so torn that half of the plane was missing. A wing was gone. By all logic, that plane should be half on fire and coming down so fast that no one would stand without holding on to something. But we saw the plane cruising like everything was fine, and the girls were standing comfortably while eating their ramyeon. Not even Tom and Jerry would defy logic like that. And what makes it even more silly is that when they jumped from the plane, we didn't see pieces of the plane falling with them. We didn't see any part of the plane fall anywhere. You know what? I'm not going to say anything else on this. Shockingly, the next mistake also happened on the plane scene. Well, it's not really shocking when you realize that the entire plane scene is what I call a thriving ground for mistakes. So, for this mistake, we'll take a look at the scene where Rumi went to confront the demons and make them reveal themselves. Mira and Zoe were standing behind her, But what you guys didn't notice is that the table they all just got up from had suddenly disappeared. Just look behind them and you won't see the table they were carb loading on. And all the food had disappeared as well. Eventually, all the furniture on the plane disappeared as well. After some seconds, a single table appeared, but there was nothing on it. So where did all the food go? You know what? Never mind. The sixth mistake on the list is quite funny and silly. It's like the animators forgot how things work, because why else would things go the way they did in that scene where Huntrix and the Saja boys met for the first time? We saw that the girls were physically blown away by these hot guys they just met for the first time. When Abby stretched to show his abs and biceps, we saw how Zoe's hat was blown off her head. But then, like 2 seconds later, we saw the hat in her hand with a lot of popcorn on it. So let me see if I have this straight. The hat fell off her head, and even though we didn't see her pick it up, we suddenly saw her using it as a popcorn bucket. Isn't that just crazy? And yet, that's not even the only time we saw that hat acting out of the ordinary. It also happened when the girls were watching the Saja boys performing Soda Pop. At one point, the boys were throwing kisses at fans, and these kisses took the form of solid hearts. To be honest, I was shocked when these hearts hit people. When one was thrown at Zoe, it hit her on the face, knocking her back. Her hat fell to the ground, and you would think that we would see how she picks her hat up. But that didn't happen. Immediately, she got up. Her hat was back on her head. I understand that this is an animation, but I mean, come on. You have to follow some logic at least. Anyways, moving on to number 8. This is one of the mistakes that make me smirk because it's like the movie makers forgot one major detail. Can you guess what that detail is? Okay, how about we do this? I will tell you the mistake, and you will tell me the detail the filmmakers forgot when making the scene. So the mistake happened when the girls were writing the lyrics of Takedown, or at least when they were trying, because they were not doing so well in that scene. When Zoe started crawling towards the wall of posters, there was a picture of the Saja boys on the right. But it wasn't just any picture. They were in their demon form and in their scary demon hanbok. That right though was the mistake. Now it is your job to tell me what makes it a mistake. What did the filmmakers forget? The Saja boys only wore that hanbok in the movie twice. The first time was when Jinu pitched the idea of a demon boy band to Guima, and the second was when they performed Your Idol at the end of the movie. So we can both say that the girls have never seen them in that outfit. So how did they get the picture of them? Simple. It's just not possible. It's a mistake that the filmmakers didn't consider. Anyways, the next mistake on the list is even more suspicious. It's like the filmmakers are not even putting any effort into trying to avoid mistakes. I'm sure we all remember that sequence of the girls going out at night to hunt demons. Now, there was this quick shot where Rumi saved the 3 Ajumas from a demon that wanted to attack them. Rumi's attack was so quick and deadly that most of you didn't notice what she was wearing. Let's slow things down and take a closer look. In that scene, she was wearing a short sleeve crop top that had a wide neck. Based on my description, you already know that her arms, her tummy, and her neck were exposed. But in that scene, there were no demon markings on her body at all. There are 2 mistakes here. The first being that she didn't have any demon markings on her, and the second being her choice of clothing. In an earlier scene, we saw her wear that exact outfit, and she hid away from her friends so they wouldn't see her demon markings, which were clearly visible while she was wearing that outfit. But now, she suddenly decided to wear it, and somehow there were no demon markings on her body. It's almost like it's sometimes abandoned common sense in this movie, and I'll prove it to you in the next mistake. Number 10 was a mistake that just left me weak. So you know how we saw Zoe writing some lyrics at the beginning of the movie in the flashback? If you look closely at one of her lyric book covers, you'll see the word demon written on it. And I've actually thought about this. Zoe couldn't have known about demons, so why would her book have the word demon on it? I mean, of all the things that could possibly be written on her book, they used the word demon. And I understand that they were trying to paint this idea of having an inbred songwriter who has been doing this for a long time. But the flashback shouldn't have had that word on her book because by then, she didn't know about demons. Moving on to number 11. So the Saja boys weren't a very humble group, but they didn't like mistakes. We could see that with their music and their performances. It was like they liked things being catchy and perfect, which is why I don't understand why the filmmakers would make a huge mistake that doesn't just align with the Saja boys. I'm sure you remember that scene where a TV announcer was declaring the winners of each of the categories of the Idol Awards. There was a glitch before the Saja boys announced that they will have a free show. Inside that crazy glitch, there was a quick look of the Saja boys in their demon form. It moved so quickly that no one would be able to see it unless you squinted your eyes and slowed things down. And it keeps going down from there. In number 12, I almost gave up hope in humanity altogether because it didn't make any sense for anyone to make such a mistake, but it happened in Kpop Demon Hunters. I'm sure we all remember the scene where Rumi saw Jinu drinking one of her tonic pouches when the guys were performing Soda Pop. In that scene, we all saw Rumi count the pouches that were in the box she was holding, and there were 6 pouches inside the box. If we add the pouch that Jinu drank, then there are 7 pouches, right? Wrong. Let's go back to the scene where Jinu ran into Rumi and knocked the box of tonic pouches down. After the boys walked away, we saw Rumi, Zoe, and Mira picking up the pouches. If you count the number of pouches that were picked up and put back in the box, there are 13. And yet somehow, Rumi had only 6 pouches in her box later on. Like I said, I almost gave up hope. This next mistake was so annoying that I didn't know how to process it. So you know how Rumi is always hiding from her friends? Well, when they were preparing for their first live performance of Golden, we saw Mira and Zoe in the same room. But Rumi wasn't with them. She had her own room because she didn't want anyone to see her demon markings when she was getting dressed. And we actually saw her get dressed, from her turtleneck shirt to her jacket. But after she wore her jacket, an X-strap miraculously appeared out of nowhere. Like, how does that even happen? And you can't tell me that she wore it in under a second, because for her to wear that, she definitely need to take off her jacket. So how did she wear it so fast? You know? All these silly, tiny mistakes are really beginning to get on my nerves. But here's one that made me lose my nerves completely. When Rumi confronted the demons on the plane, she told them that she knew they were demons because they were acting weird, smiling all weird, watering plants with hot coffee, and not being able to buckle a seatbelt. This is because demons don't know how the human world works, and they can't function properly as humans. So how is it that demons who don't know how to smile as humans or water plants are somehow able to fly a plane? There are 8 billion people in the world, and not up to 1% of those 8 billion people know how to fly an aircraft. Yet I'm supposed to just accept that a demon who can't fix a seatbelt can suddenly fly a plane. No thank you. The next mistake on the list involves Zoe and Mira. You're curious, right? What mistake could possibly involve the 2 girls at once, right? Well, it's a mistake that happened in the arena before the last battle against Kpop began. We saw the girls walk into the arena and take their position on opposite sides, and they were high up, nowhere close to the ground. But when Rumi walked into the arena and began singing, Mira and Zoe mysteriously teleported to the floor. Anybody who's ever been to a concert knows that it isn't easy to find your way through the crowd, and yet these girls were able to do so in the snap of a finger. This is the mistake where things get awkward, like really awkward, really fast. We all saw the Saja boys dancing like their lives depended on it when they were performing Soda Pop, and it made me wonder what Abby, Romance, Baby, and Mystery Saja were getting in return for being part of this mission. I mean, we all know what Jinu wanted, to get a factory reset setting of the brain. He wanted his memories gone, and Guima was going to give that to him. But the rest of the guys, what were they getting? Guess we'll never know. The mistake here, though, happened when the boys slid past a group of children and handed gifts to them. If you slow down that scene and look closely at Abby's behind, you will see his butt crack. Yup, Abby flashed us his butt. I almost didn't believe it, but it was right there. The mistake in number 17 is probably the biggest one of all because it affected the entire movie. You might be wondering what sort of mistake that is. Well, let's take a look at the Idol Awards. We saw the demons shapeshift to look like Mira and Zoe, and even Bobby. Giving demons that ability was a complete mistake. And you might be asking how that is a mistake. Well, it's simple. The whole reason why a demon boy band was created was so they could steal the fans of Huntrix. But that meant that they needed to build this fan base for themselves, which was more difficult. If they could shapeshift, why didn't they just make themselves look like the girls and perform like them to steal their fans? I mean, it's simple A, B, and C, but it seems common sense isn't common in this movie. The 18th mistake is the type you shake your head in disappointment at. During the fan signing, we saw a fan edit on Bobby's phone that involved Mira, Abby, and Romance. It was tagged Miro-Mabby, and I like to call it the Miro-Mabby edit. But if you look closely at that edit, look past all the romantic fantasy, and you will see that there is a huge mistake that just made me shake my head. The outfit Mira was wearing in that edit is exactly the same one she wore to Healer Han's shop. But that can't be possible, can it? Because their mission to the healer shop was supposed to be a secret one that even Bobby didn't know about. So how did a fan get a close-up picture of Mira to use for the edit? Like I said, a mistake that just makes me disappointed. But not as disappointed as this next one, which happened towards the end of the movie. After the girls had defeated Guima, we saw them flying in the air like they had suddenly gained the supernatural power to fly. That on its own was a mistake, but not as much of a mistake as the reaction of the fans. When the fans saw them flying, they screamed for joy, as though it were every day they saw celebrities flying in the air. I mean, I can speak for myself. I have never seen a human being fly without being in an airplane or a helicopter or even a jetpack. And yet, the girls were flying on their own, with fans cheering them on like it was just another Tuesday. Speaking of abnormal things happening that people take normally, we saw one such mistake during the hot sauce game show. All the Saja boys were competing against the co-host, but it quickly came down to him and baby Saja. We all saw the co-host's face. It was smeared with hot sauce all over. And don't even get me started on his eyes, which are bloodshot red as though he had rubbed them with pepper. And his skin looked red like he was on fire. But seconds later, after Baby had been declared the winner of the competition, the co-host suddenly had a clean and normal face and clear eyes, and even his bib was clean, so he didn't wipe his face off between shots. Can someone please make that make sense to me? Moving on to number 21. This mistake happened at the very beginning of the movie, where we saw the girls talking on the plane, saying that this was going to be their biggest show with the most songs. And yeah, it was evidence that this was their biggest show because you could see the crowd. There were at least 15,000 fans. But that aspect of most songs is just completely incorrect. We all know that they only performed How It's Done, and they didn't even perform the complete song, because by the time they landed in the arena, they had already sung half the song. Anyways, moving on. The next mistake was something that happened earlier on in the movie, and we've actually talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this video as well. It has to do with Abby's buttons coming off of his shirt. Remember I talked about how he stretched to show off his abs and biceps, and all of a sudden his buttons snapped off his shirt? The point with that scene was that I expected Abby to be walking with his shirt wide open, showing off his muscular body. But the next moment we saw him, all his buttons were back on, and his shirt was properly buttoned from top to bottom. How does a shirt go from having no buttons to complete buttons and become completely buttoned within the space of just 10 seconds? Something isn't right. But when it comes to watching a scene and just feeling that something isn't right, nothing will probably ever defeat this dance scene when the Saja boys were performing Soda Pop. When I watched that scene, I didn't notice anything about it, but something just didn't feel right. So I watched it again and slowed it down this time, and my oh my, I saw one of the most hilarious things ever. The Saja boys' legs were wiggly, like they didn't have a single bone in their legs. And all I could think about at that point was, what the heck were these animators smoking when they made the scene? Anyways, I guess we'll never know. This next mistake is one that every department contributed to. The animators made several souls fly into the demon world, and they made Guima eat one soul despite the many. Then the writers made Jinu say, that soul is just a starter. Everybody should just wait a crazy minute. Many souls came in, the Demon King ate one, and somehow Jinu is also talking about just one soul. What happened to the others? This is all just very confusing, but not as confusing as the final mistake. For the finale, we have a mistake in which everyone was just confused in the movie. It began during rehearsals for the Idol Awards. When Rumi expressed her dislike for the song they were rehearsing, Mira told her that the Idol Awards are tomorrow. Then later that night, Jinu tells Rumi he'll make sure the Saja boys lose tomorrow. But when tomorrow finally comes, Rumi tells the girls she knows they can win tomorrow, instead of saying that evening. Anyways, that's all for today. Leave your thoughts in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye.